Leedsichthys is one of the biggest fish to ever exist, and it's coming to Path of Titans as the biggest playable in the game. Well, the biggest official playable in the game. And today I'm telling you everything you need to know about it, from what it was to what we know about it in the game. So grab your popcorn and let's get right into it. Leedsichthys is a giant filter-feeding fish that is an extinct member of the Pachycormidae group. This is a group of extinct Mesozoic ray-finned fish that lived during the late Jurassic period. So if you want to think about it in terms of what it lived with, this kind of lived alongside stuff like Liplorodon, various ichthyosaurs, and so much more. This added to the ever-abundant oceanic life that was in the late Jurassic oceans. But additionally to this guy lived in places like Germany, France, Argentina, Chile, and most importantly of all, the United Kingdom, baby.
Would you like some tea?
Money Pickering!
Who the f*** is that?
Yeah, me!
In terms of how big this is, it's huge. Like, you know what else is massive? I'm not going to continue that, but this thing is massive. Sits as the biggest fish to have ever existed, but this is 53 foot long. It's a monstrously sized creature, and previously there was even estimates which had this claiming to be 98 foot long, which is absurd. That's 30 meters in length. However, the max estimates seem to be around 16 to 20 meters and 43 tons in its weight. In terms of what it is, this is more likely to be that of the basking shark or whale shark in terms of what it lived like. Compared to stuff like the great whites or the megalodons, it definitely didn't have that kind of hyper-aggressive lifestyle. It was more that of a placid, filter-feeding life. Likely only attacking if it was disturbed or aggravated, unless you play Ark, and then this thing is basically the heat seeker missile of boats and the most aggressive thing in the ocean. But that's it. It's a massive filter-feeding fish. So let's talk about what exactly we know about it for Path of Titans. Leedsichthys was introduced into Path of Titans because of a crowdfunding goal that was hit during the Indiegogo campaign. When the game got $160,000 back in 2019, it was one of the game's later half-stretch goals, coming after the Capture the Egg game mode and coming before the Rhamphorhynchus. Shockingly, Rhamphorhynchus released before it. The stretch goal says that Leeds would have one model, 3 variations, 3 skins, animations, and a unique filter-feeding gameplay style, with the developers even taking to the Discord when they announced it saying this: "We have reached our $160,000 stretch goal and unlocked the playable giant fish, Leedsichthys. This is absolutely amazing and is going to be so much fun to bring to the game. We're super hyped to bring this thing to life after release." Now, there isn't much you can infer from this compared to what we had from the Microraptor announcement, but you can infer 2 things. The developers think it's going to be fun to bring to the game, which is quite contrary to its suspected lifestyle, which was very dull and just swam around filter feeding, so it's likely they have a unique plan for it. It will also be bringing a new mechanic with it, which is brand new to the game, and that's what we know is the filter feeding gameplay style. Now, there isn't much that we can infer from developer comments either for Leedsichthys, because Jiggy has only mentioned this twice, once in 2020 saying "imagine a beach Leedsichthys, so much food," and once in 2019 on the day of the announcement saying "could have a little Deinonychus live in Leeds' mouth, Pinocchio style." And equally, Matt has actually never commented on it apart from once before it was released, but other than that, that's the same for the filter feeding mechanic too. There is no comments on it. So the best information that we can get for this is from the game's Wikipedia page, which gets 2 extra tidbits of information. The first one is that it will be the largest non-modded creature in the game. The largest dinosaur in the game is currently the Argentinosaurus, which is a mod. This is on the game's wiki page, and I did say there was another thing that we know, and that's technically we know 2 of the species, or have a good guess at what 2 of the species are thanks to the wiki page, so let's talk about the species now. As with all playable creatures in Path of Titans, there will be 3 species for them. In the last video in this series I spoke about Microraptor, and that thing was very blessed with the fact that it had 3 known species for it, attached to its genus. But Leedsichthys is a very unlucky one because it only has 2 attributed species to its genus. One of them is very iffy on if it actually is a genus of Leedsichthys. Anyways, these are the type species, which is Leedsichthys problematicus, and then you've got Leedsichthys notocetes. Leedsichthys is missing a 3rd species for the game, and there are 3 separate ways that you could go about it. Other known Pachycormidae as examples, made up names, or nicknames attributed to it. Path of Titans has a history of both making up species names and grabbing from other genres. For example, Pachycephalosaurus and Tyrannosaurus are 2 examples of using other species. Tyrannosaurus, for example, uses Tyrannosaurus beta, which is actually from Tarbosaurus beta. Leedsichthys has some relatively close relatives that you could grab names from, and I've mentioned this before, but Leedsichthys gladius, which comes from Bonarichthys gladius, and Leedsichthys taylori, which comes from Rhinoconichthys taylori, and those are the 2 best examples you could probably get there because they're the closest in terms of what Leedsichthys is. But equally, you could make up a name, and the most likely one is Leedsichthys grandis, which is also used on other creatures in the game and is a made-up species and is usually attributed to the bigger version of the species. And finally, you could go with a nickname, and the most likely here is Leedsichthys ariston, which is a nickname from specimen PETMGF174, which is a British Leedsichthys specimen that was coincidentally named after Ariston, which is a washing machine. So the next thing we need to talk about is that new mechanic that it will feature, and that's the filter feeding. Now, filter feeding is a brand new mechanic that will be coming to the game and for this creature, and after Microraptor is the only playable listed to be bringing a brand new mechanic to the game, because Tylosaurus is very unlucky there. Filter feeding, of course, is something that goes on in real life. It's very common practice with a lot of marine life, from whales to sharks. And in the case of Leedsichthys, it's probably going to follow very similar lifestyle patterns to that of the whale shark or the basking shark. The basking shark is one of my favourite sharks. The process is basically swigging up tons of water to get plankton or other small critters out of it and filtering it into your belly, and then essentially, the water then goes through the gills, and as it flows through the gills, that's when you get the food kind of attaching to it. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I might be very wrong there, but this mechanic will likely be the way Leeds gets food, swimming through the water with its mouth open wide, filtering gallons of water to get nutrients in the game. Now, to me, this would require an ocean overhaul to be able to incorporate this brand new mechanic, because the oceans are very boring. However, I do think there are 2 ways that it could be put into the game. The first one is just a passive ability that goes into the passive ability slot that you just, hold E when you're hungry, and then you open your mouth and you swallow up food. Certain areas will have more food, others will just get you less food. Or you could introduce migratory zones for the plankton, allowing you to migrate across the oceans to find food and eat it, which in my eyes will be the best way to do it. This could then incorporate migratory patterns into the game, which then other aquatics could take advantage of to hunt you, for example. Now, unfortunately, I do have to disappoint you because I don't think Leedsichthys will be coming anytime soon. It will likely be something to release after the Microraptor, and so I do not think it will be coming this year unless it releases at around Christmas time. And this is when I get proven wrong and the developers just randomly drop it next week while I'm away. But I doubt it'll come this year. I also think to incorporate it and Tylosaurus into the game, as well as the filter feeding mechanic, they'd need to do some sort of overhaul to the oceans, with the AI and the environment getting some love. So unfortunately, I don't think it will come until that's done as well. But everybody, that is Leedsichthys and what we know, as well as some other stuff you could infer. Now, of course, do bear in mind, there are some stuff that is more theoretical in this video and more discussion points, so take that with a pinch of salt. Some of the earlier stuff that we know of, obviously that can be taken with the face value because it's coming from the developers and the wiki page. Anyways, other than that, guys, if you want to check out another video, check out this one where I spoke about Microraptor in the last part of this series. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Peace.